Okay, Kelly.
All right, thank you, Angela. Good morning, everybody. Kelly McDonald here. Welcome back to Bar Talk on this first day of February 2021. Thank you for being here. Thank you to everybody who came to the Winter Bar Conference last week. It proved to be a resounding success. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Right off the top, we've got, we'll go through our normal agenda here, a couple of updates on what's going on in the state. Dan Murphy, who is the chair of the Bar Journal Editorial Advisory Committee, has been kind enough to come join us today to talk about the Maine Bar Journal. And then Angela will have some information, association information. So most notably, the state of Maine has launched a new interactive vaccination dashboard, which is actually pretty cool. I just checked it out myself this morning. I have it here in front of me. And as of yesterday, 8.56% of Maine's population had received their first dose, which seems like that's pretty good. And there is a note that is a percentage of the entire population, including kids who are younger than 16. And of course, they're not eligible for the vaccine yet. So it looks like Maine is doing pretty well. Maybe that some of you have gotten your first doses. Let's hope that that process continues. The governor has ended the 9 p.m. curfew for certain businesses. There continue to be changing hours at the courthouses. Check the judicial branch's website for those. And then looks like we just need to be mindful of the court administrative week coming up. So those are the updates from what's going on around the state. And now let's go to Dan Murphy. Dan, you're here to talk about the Maine Bar Journal. Maine Bar Journal is one of the key functions of the association. It gets published 4 times a year, and it provides it's just a beautiful publication, and it provides a connection between all of our members. So Dan, over to you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks very much. Before diving in, I'd just like to give a shout out to Catherine Hullob and Angela Armstrong. Front stage, we've got an organization that runs very well, but backstage, there's a lot of work that goes into it, a lot of unsung effort. So I just want to tip my hat because I know how hard they work, and it's a wonderful result. So thank you. So I am the chair of the Editorial Advisory Committee of the Maine Bar Journal. The Bar Journal is published every season 4 times a year. It's an all-volunteer publication with respect to authors, and we take submissions all the time. The pieces are considered by the Editorial Advisory Board and then approved by our editor, Catherine Hullob. We seek articles of practical use and interest to our readers. The editorial guidelines are on the website for the Maine State Bar Association. Deadlines are rolling. There's also the McCusick Award that we have, and that's given to the author of an article that best enhances the understanding of the law and shows a practice-based scholarship. The award is aptly named after Chief Justice McCusick, who was very sensible in his approach to the law and had an ability to get right to the heart of the matter. And some of those pieces that have won the award actually have gone on to change the law in Maine. Most notably, there's one by Bruce McLaughlin from Petrocelli Martin, in which the Maine Unfair Trade Practices Act was amended because of the article. So we're always on the lookout for pieces like that. As a side note, we also have an occasional piece called Beyond the Law, and it focuses on the pastimes of lawyers outside of their law practice. As we all know, the practice of law can be all-encompassing, and there's a need for balance. And if you are only practicing law all the time, it can be a distortion. So it's good to have an outside interest, and the column focuses on the pastimes of attorneys outside of their law practice. And I'll give you an example. Back in 2009, we did a piece on Judge Frank Coffin, who was just a titan in the legal world. He sat on the First Circuit, was also a congressman, but he also was an accomplished sculptor in wood. And on weekends, he would fill his workshop with wood shavings and make beautiful pieces in wood and sometimes in stone. And I asked Judge Coffin about his attraction to sculpting works. And he noted that it just allowed him to use a different part of his brain, and that he felt like more of a whole person after each session. So that's a great example of how an outside interest in the law can be meaningful and also help you find balance. And so it's good to have an interest. We're always on the lookout for new candidates for the column. And I also would note that there's some overlap as well with the 4 themes that our president, Kelly McDonald, has set forth for the year. 2 of those themes are related to working smarter and also becoming more efficient. But the other 2, being happier and becoming more collegial, do speak to this need to have an outside interest. It's a chance to share, it's a chance to find work-life balance and avoid some of the pitfalls that can accompany the responsibility of practicing law. So.
That's a great overview, Dan. Thank you so much. I just want to note that writing an article for the Maine Bar Journal is just a fantastic way, especially for a lawyer who might be towards the beginning of their career and who is looking to kind of build their name recognition, connect with others. I wrote an article in 2012 on trustee process, and I still get calls based on that article to this day. And the other great thing is once you've done the legwork to write the article, it is then easily transformable into a CLE because you've got all the content that you need to present a CLE. So I encourage those of you on the call who are earlier in your professional years, or those of you who have colleagues who are in that position to think about writing an article. It is a great exercise. It's a great opportunity to do something a little bit different from what we do every day.
No, that's absolutely true. And often when you're working on a case, you become an expert for a short amount of time. And it can be a great way to capture that expertise, to put it into an article and to share it with your colleagues. So we're always on the lookout for practical articles, and they can be forwarded to our communications director, Catherine Hello.
And that's a great point. In fact, that trustee process article I wrote because I had just done a trustee process case that went all the way up to the law court on one very little unique piece of this complicated law. Dan, can you tell us a little bit about what happens? You've got an idea for an article. What's that process look like to get approval from the Bar Journal, to craft it, to take it through the publication process? How does that? Should people contact the journal with an idea? Should they contact with a fully fleshed out article? What do you recommend?
Well, I think that it should be a fully fleshed out article. We generally don't provide space for anybody, but if you have an article that is finished, we're happy to consider it. And we're not the only publication in Maine that is available for publishing legal related pieces. There are other publications as well, but the way it works is there'll be a piece that's submitted to the Bar Journal. It'll be circulated among the Editorial Advisory Committee, and then we'll review and then provide some feedback amongst ourselves, and then have a vote. And if it passes the vote, then it gets submitted to Catherine, and she gets to decide whether it gets published or not. And sometimes there are space considerations, timing considerations, and so on. But that's the general process.
And you've talked a little bit about beyond the law articles and a little bit about kind of the substantive articles. What topic areas would be of interest to the Bar Journal if people were thinking about writing an article?
Well, it's very broad. It's as diverse as the bar itself. So we do hope to have pieces that will have an audience. So sometimes there are changes in the law that exist. So there's some kind of like primers. I think actually your piece on attachment was sort of a primer. And I'm sure that when someone's faced with attachment trustee process, they can even go on Westlaw and get your article and get a grounding in that area. So those are always very helpful. There are also novel changes in the law that exist. So sometimes it's interesting to have a piece that's addressed to a change in the law that people need to be aware of. And then there are also just tips. The law is not always easy to navigate. So sometimes folks who work in a particular area are kind enough to share their expertise, and that's very helpful for the rest of the bar as well.
Excellent. All right, Dan, thank you so much. If anybody has questions for Dan about the Maine Bar Journal, please feel free to throw them in the chat while we wait to see if any such questions come in. Angela, let me actually turn to you. We're gonna try to do something a little different with the Maine Bar Journal this year in terms of delivery, because we are aware that many of us are not at our usual addresses. I am not where I usually get my mail. I'm at home. And that may be true for many of you as well. So Angela, what are we going to do differently to address that?
So we are going to still deliver the hard copy of the journal. We know that getting something in your hand and having it to look at is always nice, and not having to look at everything online. But we are also going to have it available. We're going to blast it out to all of our members so that they have it in a online version in case they are not at their office to receive it.
Excellent. And I'm sure that if people would like the print journal directed to a different address, they could simply contact the association and you guys can make that happen?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, great. Dan, anything else you want to touch on?
No, just that we're always on the lookout for pieces, so please keep us in mind.
Well, it is a tremendous amount of work to keep that publication running. I think it's a high quality publication, and that is a testament to all of yours work. So thank you very much for all the time that you put in. How many years have you been doing this, Dan?
I think the first Beyond the Law piece I did was in 2007. So and so I've been on the board before that time. So it's been a little while.
It's been a little while. Well, thank you for all that work. Angela, over to you.
Thanks for joining us today, Dan. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So first of all, thanks to all of you that attended the Winter Bar Conference. I think it went really well, all things considered, since it was our first time holding one of these fully virtual. We've held obviously virtual CLEs, but nothing to the extent that that the Winter Bar Conference challenged us with. So we thank you for your patience with the technical difficulties that we experienced early on, but I think we got through them pretty well. We'll be spending this week working on figuring out exactly what all of you did end up attending, because some of you moved some things around. And so we'll get those, excuse me, credits reported over the next few weeks. The next Board of Governors meeting will be held by Zoom on February 23rd. So if you have any information that you would like shared with the board, please let me know. Let me back up. Just a little bit of information on the Winter Bar Conference. Just so you know, we held 28 sessions. 2 of those were plenaries. The rest were all concurrent sessions. We held a business meeting, and Berman Simmons was kind enough to sponsor a yoga session for us. So a lot going on at once. We had 48 faculty. Thanks to all of them for their participation. You all did a great job. I have received nothing but wonderful feedback for all of the sessions. In fact, I have a very kind note from a practitioner who's been doing this for 53 years. It said this virtual program was one of the best he's ever attended, live or anything. So we're very thankful. And we had 310 attendees. So sorry I backed up there, but I wanted to give you a little information on that. And then finally, you can see our upcoming guests for the next few weeks. And if you have an idea on a guest that we could have, please let me know.
Well, that's just fantastic news. That is a lot of people. That is that might be is close to a new record. Well, it is a new record. It's the most people we've ever had to a virtual bar conference. And so that's huge. That is a success beyond our projections. And so you'll see my thanks here is to the staff. They put in an enormous amount of time and effort last week and probably used up a few years of their lives getting us through that process. two more notes. As I mentioned at our membership meeting last week, the bar is right now thinking about and meeting regularly in committees about how to respond to pending legislation and thinking about MCILS and how to approach that very important issue. We welcome everybody's feedback. If you have views, if you have opinions, which would really surprise me given the fact that you're all a bunch of lawyers, you can direct those opinions to Angela, and she will make sure that they get to the head of the appropriate committee. So if you have a view on any piece of pending legislation that you think the association should take a position on, or if you have opinions on MCILS, please let Angela know. Hey, we'll take your opinions on anything, but those two things in particular. So thank you, everybody. Really appreciate you being here on this Monday morning. I hope that the coming snow is cause for celebration and not despair. I'm looking forward to it. It should be really nice. I wish you all a great week, and we'll see you next week.